For those of you who were here last week when the entire altar was shifted over to the set for our school play, which was on Krishna. This is our lower school, our K through 8 school. We've been doing theater production with that school for a number of decades now, and every production is about some great soul, either an avatar like Krishna or Christ or Buddha, many that we've done, Yogananda, or a great figure through history. We did a play on Abraham Lincoln and George Washington Carver. So it's been quite a saga over many decades. And somewhere along the line, I got drawn into the party as a costumer for all these kids. I finally figured out it's my hobby. It took me a while to figure out what it was. I like theater, I like children, and I like costume. So 6 weeks out of the year, I just put on a completely different reality, and I get to be part of the school staff. The first time I started doing it, I developed a great affection for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Environment being stronger than willpower. It was really... So I'd pack my little sandwich every morning, just like all the little kids. And in any case, so we had our play this year. This is the first time because we missed 2 years, because we had one dress rehearsal and then COVID hit. And then the following year, we took the same play and made a film out of it. And this year we had an audience, but we had a limited audience, so many of you all couldn't come, even though we were all sorry about that, but nonetheless, it was still fabulous. And you watch the kids, and they're so intent. And we put everybody on the stage from 5 years old up to 14, or 4 years old up to 14. And children, of course, as you all know, have a unique perception. They are who they are, and they see the world as they see it. I remember when I was in 6, maybe 4, 5, and 6, my parents put me in ballet class, which I had a certain samskar for. Talent might have been a different question, but I had a strong feeling for it. And I only did it for a few years, and I vividly remember my recital. Pink tutu, silver ribbon around the edge, the same silver ribbon here, and then a little silver bow. And my mother had very straight hair, and I have naturally curly hair. And she would squinch my hair. That was the phrase that she used. Come over here, honey, and let me squinch your hair. And she would squinch it so it would go in little curls like this. My pictures of me 4, I look pretty much the same as this, you know. And I remember that recital. I was good. And I remembered it for decades. And then somehow after my parents died, my sister gave me all the family photos, and there I am in the pink tutu, just as I remember. The pink tutu, the silver ribbon, the bow in my hair, the squinched curls like this. And I looked like this. It was like, it destroyed me, you know? And so I watched the little kids on the stage, you know, and some of them, they'll have one line, and they'll practice it, and they'll practice it, and they'll practice it, and you can see them, you know, as it gets closer and closer, they get more and more excited, and then the time comes and they give it, and, you know, more or less correctly, but they'll give it, but I remember what it felt like. It didn't feel like you were a little kid just stumbling out there. It was your moment of triumph, and in a normal year, that we would have like 250 people here, and they'd all be cheering every single kid for everything they did. Now, you come back and Jesus says, "Be therefore like little children, for of such is the kingdom of heaven." Now, which is the right perception? Is it the external perception that compared to Margot Fonteyn, I didn't really quite have, you know, what it takes to be a great ballerina? Or was it the flow of energy I felt within myself when I was able to just enter into that stream of music and dance and beauty and costume and the child with the on the stage? Is like we're always existing on so many different levels. And there's a profound and a very deep truth that we have to figure out how to be both brilliantly realistic and not crazy about this world, because we can't retreat into a fantasy world. I couldn't go on stage now, and just because I feel like a ballerina, that anybody would think I was a ballerina. It just couldn't happen. One of my friends, there was a couple who lived here for many years who were now retired because the life of a ballet dancer, the career path is very short. They were retired, but they'd both been principal dancers with the San Francisco Ballet. And they were just so effortlessly wonderful in everything that they did. And they had a child in our school, and for a few years, they would dance for us on this stage in the middle of our children's play. We would just create a scene for them. And one year, the man, Andre, somehow or another, he had to, I think it might have been when we did the story of Kuan Yin, which we did once, the Chinese goddess. And I think somewhere she's abducted by a tiger, or perhaps eaten by a tiger. The details are obscure. And Andre played the tiger. And he was now, past his prime, so to speak, because he was all of like 35 or something like that. And I happened to be in the back, and Andre was going to be the tiger. And again, this is a kid's play. Andre had to race up the field here. If I have some of the details wrong, this is the essence of it. He had to race up the field. He had to run around. He might have actually picked up the little girl and carried her back down the aisle. Ballet dancers are really strong. And he carried her back down the aisle. He prepared for that as if he was back with the San Francisco Ballet in the Opera House. It wasn't the fact that he was skilled only. It was the fact that he threw himself so completely into that. And for those of you who remember, you probably remember that, he came tearing up that aisle, and everyone in the audience was like, please don't eat me. And he grabbed that girl, and we thought we might never see her again. He was committed. He was completely committed. And he took it as far as he was able to take it. When I was a 6-year-old ballerina, I was really committed to that. I have some scars of that. And I recall reading somewhere some woman who had multiple life memory. And she talked about the fact that often when a child is doing something like that, like your 3-year-old wraps herself in scarves and says, "Mommy, Mommy, watch me dance," they're back at some point when they knew how to do it. And perhaps they really were great at it. So their experience is carried over. We live on so many levels. And so it's very important that you have to take children, especially to a very large extent, we have to take each other on that set, how you see it and feel it yourself. And these little kids, they're committed. One of the reasons that we do this theater production, which is just madness, to put that many kids on the stage. Rose is in the audience today. She's the director. She's nodding her head. She's in the back row, but I'm watching her. There is invariably a point about, why do I keep doing this? Am I whacking it, or is it just, I keep hitting it. That's kind of dumb of me. Let me not blame you. I'll stop hitting it. It's about 6 or 8 weeks of the project. In the middle, we almost always look at each other and swear that we'll never do this again. We're just completely out of our minds. It's crazy. And then, and it happens every darn time, especially after the last performance, the kids are taking their bows. Everyone is, here, look, it's gonna, and you forget. I guess it's like childbirth. I've never had a baby. You forget everything. Because there's very few things that you can do for children where it's really on them. Once they're on the stage, they can say line, and then Ruth, who's usually reading it, will give them their line. But it's up to them. It's not made up, it's not fake, and they can't be rescued. They're just on the stage, and they have to do it. They have to commit. They have to really commit themselves to what's in front of them. And that's where greatness comes from. Talent is nice. And if you have talent, it's maybe a little easier and more fun. But how do you think you develop talent? You don't think you were terrible before you were good? Like, how many incarnations do we have? Many, many, many incarnations, millions of incarnations. And at a certain point, a glimmer of some desire, rises up and we begin. And before we're good, we're terrible. But if we commit ourselves to it, we keep trying and we keep trying and we keep trying. And what is the difference between those who ultimately succeed and those who don't? Well, I'm saying commitment and energy is part of it. But also another part of it is somewhere you know that it's out there. And if you just keep looking for it, you're going to find it, meaning your ability to do it. When I was 24 years old, I believe that's when it happened. That's how my memory tells it to me. And I was just beginning my life with Swami Kriyananda. He said to me, someday, I want you to write a book about me. And on one hand, you would think, well, that makes me feel important. It did not make me feel important. It scared the living daylights out of me. Absolutely terrified me. For two reasons. One, because I guess the reason it terrified me is because I knew I would have to do it, and I didn't have any idea how I was ever going to be able to do that. I knew that what I was witnessing was, a phenomenon that was not personal, which is Swami Kriyananda himself. This was an uncommon event. And I had somehow had the karma to be sitting in the living room, and for a while being a secretary, but I knew this is not for me. I mean, this is not for me to hoard. I'm a window on this. I'm not a locker. I'm not a suitcase. I'm a window. And I had started already just writing things down. Every single day of my life, until I published that book, I was terrified. It was what I called the mother of all my fears, is that I would die without ever being able to do it. But he told me that I could. He told me that I would. Not yet, he said, thank you. And he also said, I will help you. Now see, that's what it is. That's the difference between success and failure, which is, if it comes to us, it comes to us. Now, I was lucky because he was right there speaking English to me without even an accent, so there was no chance I could misunderstand. It was there to happen. I had to do it. And he said, I will help you. So somewhere deep in me, I believed in it. And it wasn't even myself I believed in. Whoa, did I not believe in myself? Sometimes insecurity puts a big facade of arrogance over it, but it doesn't make it any more secure. It's just the weird costume it wears. Okay? But I didn't believe in myself, but I believed in it. I believed it needed to be done. And someone that I believed in more than I believed in myself told me that he would help me do it. You see, that's what gives us the courage to commit. That's why the masters say to us over and over, you're children of God. In the Festival of Light, every single week, and we're going to do it in a few minutes, oh, children of light, forsake the darkness. And then everybody has to stand up to say that I am a child of light and I will forsake the darkness. Why do we do that every week? I mean, on a certain level, certain cynical people come into this church and find it so cheesy they never come back. It would be easy to just sort of dismiss it as, what a cliche. Don't you people have any sophisticated understanding of the complex nature of the duality of, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm a child of God. I believe in it, and He has promised me, she has promised me, it has promised me. It will be fulfilled. I don't believe in myself, but I believe in it. I believe it's out there to be discovered, and if I persevere sufficiently, and all we have to do is just keep trying. And we watch these little kids. One of our kindergartners this year was so terrified, the mother was considering not even putting the child on the stage. But fortunately, she reconsidered and listened to the voice of experience, and the child had tremendous triumph. One of the children I was working with she's very capable. One of the children I was talking to, an older child, she's very capable and quite accomplished in fields that I couldn't touch. But she was terrified of being on the stage. So I just sort of joked about, well, we're all scared of something, aren't we? You know, something frightens us, so we want to live the rest of our lives confined by that? Well, God won't let us, for one thing. One year on one of the programs, one of the things you have to get the children to do, you have to get them to do two things. You have to get them slowed down enough so you can have the slightest idea what they're saying about. You know, they practice their line, then they say their line, you know, and it's like nobody knows what they've said. Or they say the line like this. Rose has a mantra. I work up in the choir loft. Rose works down here and I listen. Louder, slower, louder, slower, louder, slower. So you hear some of the children practically shouting their lines, but trust me, you prefer that because at least you have a clue. My job with the costumes, as far as I'm concerned, is to make sure that the villain is wearing black and the heroine is wearing white, so that no matter how they deliver their lines, the basic premises will be obvious of the play. So I'm a communicator right there. Let's see, now I lost the thought for a minute. Louder, slower, what was it they wanted to say? Ooh, I forgot where I was going. Let me just see if I can find it again. But for them, victory is not measured by any external standard. This is not a contest with Meryl Streep, you know. This is a contest between the child having the nerve to do what's asked of him and to have the triumph of having believed enough to be able to do it. The power of this school, and I will speak to it with my whole heart. And Helen explained, Helen who's been our director for a long time, she put it in very good words. We challenge the children, but they trust us to support them, to give them success. And I really thought about that for a long time. God challenges us, but the promise is there that if he asks it of us, he will also make it possible for us to succeed. I remember when I had to face a very difficult situation in my life. The first time it happens, let's see what happened. Did Swami ask me? Something was given to me to do, which I really didn't want to do. And someone said to me, well, you don't have to do it. No, I said, I do have to do it. That's what's making me so upset. If I didn't have to do it, then I could just step away from it. And later on, years later in life, when I had another big test, I finally realized I was really angry. And I was a little angry at the people around me. But I really finally realized I was really mad at them, like super. I was sitting right over there when the realization came to me. I was so mad at every one of them and Swami, the whole crowd. And I was mad at them because I knew I was going to have to expand my consciousness and meet the challenge. It was so annoying. It was just so annoying because I knew it was going to be very difficult and it wasn't going to be any fun. And naturally, we all want our lives to be easy and pleasurable, don't we? And so they'd given me a challenge that I would have to meet, and I would have to go through all of that. And, well, I was just annoyed. What else can I say? Master tells us we have to be frank with God because you don't fool him anyway. I went through a cycle with Swamiji where he had given me a job that, as he said later, I thought you had I thought you could do it, but I was wrong. Basically, you really just don't have that skill at all, do you? No, sir, I don't. I had to work through a lot of people in a big group. And I'm much more interested in my own ideas. That's just the only way I can put it. You know, I can work with the group, but I can't really just do what other people want. I don't thrive in that kind of an atmosphere. I've learned I'm much better. But that was early, and I was a total catastrophe. And Swami tried to help me. For 2 years, he tried to help me. And for 2 years, I didn't realize that competent people accept help. I thought competent people were just like, like a fairy godmother, poof, you're competent. Only later did I realize that competent people become competent by letting other people who know how to do it help them. But, once you know it, but I didn't then. And so I kept pretending. I would say, yes, sir, and then I would just go home, and I was just becoming a crazy mess. And at the end of 2 years, when things were really bad, Swami said, you always wanted to look like a good disciple. That was his phrase. You always wanted to look like a good disciple. And so you would always say yes, even though you were just getting more and more upset. And then he said, you never fooled me. Oh, I said, what a colossal waste of 2 years. You think we fool our soul? You think we fool Divine Mother? You think we fool these guys here? Just by pretending, oh yes, sir, I'm just fine. No, me, not angry. No, not a bit. Like, we can tell with the people around us. You think God is so stupid? But He will help us. And also, they'll change the plot if you can't meet it. Once Swamiji had asked something really tough of me, and by that point I'd learned, I just was fizzling, total fizzle. But I didn't want to play the game anymore. And I said, Swamiji, you asked me to do so-and-so, and I'm not doing it. I just want you to know I'm not doing it. Swami did not take an extra breath. He said, well, so much for theory, let's deal with reality. Like, he didn't care. He's on my side. God is on our side. That's the hardest thing for us to understand. We spend so much time thinking we have to meet this standard and meet that standard and meet this standard before we will be loved. And yes, it's true, a lot of people treat us like that. During those years, decades ago, when I was working for Swamiji and I was his appointment secretary, and during that period of time, you could have a personal appointment with Swamiji. You had to get past me to get it, but you got it. And then he would have these afternoons at his dome up there at the seclusion retreat, for those of you who've seen it. And I would sit outside, usually. It must have been good weather always, because we would sit outside and then he would talk to people and then we would go back and forth. And I would sit there all afternoon greeting everyone because I had to just calm them down. Now, these were people who didn't know Swamiji well, for the most part, and they were totally intimidated. Just like, they were going to go in front of this person that they thought could see right into them, and he would see everything about them. And I realized how crazy all this was. I knew Swami well, of course. He never judged. He never judged anyone. He would perceive you as you were. Yes, he had insight, but he was there to help. He loves us. We're children of God. He saw our potential. He only ever saw our potential. He always moved us with our strengths. He never hammered on our weaknesses. He would see what was good about you and he would water it. Like this. I said, you're walking around all the time and everybody is judging you. Everybody's judging, well, that's kind of a crummy outfit you're wearing. Whoever thought that was a good haircut for him, It's like, what an ugly car. We're constantly judging each other. And they finally come in front of someone who loves the God within them and wants it to become free. And all of a sudden we're nervous. Like, is this a screwy? And that's how it is within us now. Swamiji isn't in the body. We don't have that opportunity anymore. But he's he and they and he, she, it, however we're doing it. We are occupied by divinity. And we never fool God. He will leave us alone if we wish to just live in a fantasy world of delusion, sure, because we have free will. What a bummer, but we have free will. And we can make whatever choices we like, but we don't fool anybody. We are light. We are children of light. And this is why we were born. We have to believe. We don't have to believe in ourselves. We just have to believe in it. You know, children of light, forsake the darkness. You know, forsake this deeply held desire for things to be different than they are. That's what it always comes down to. My friend Keshava Taylor lives in Delhi with his wife Daya. He was a founding member of Ananda. He and I we grew up together. That's how I think about it spiritually, although we were in our 20s when we started. He lived in Italy for 6 or 7 years, and now he's lived in India for 15 or more, I think. And he's a very contented person within himself, a very fine soul. And I asked him once, you know, he's Canadian actually, but I asked him, how do you live comfortably in India? And he said, I never make comparisons. I just never compare the situation I'm in with something else. I was told that when our European work, when more and more Americans moved on to other countries and it became more of a European work and it was more Italians, the general tone became more and more positive, because in Italy, Americans would tend to think that Italy was a slightly broken America. And it's not. It's a perfectly functioning Italy. India is a perfectly functioning India. It's not a broken America. I mean, this is what, and just that simple thought. I never make comparisons. Because I want it to be different. Like, who's listening? Who cares if you want it to be different? We are children, and that's not the good part of being a child, which is, I want it to be different. I saw this little child. I was traveling once internationally, and these poor beleaguered parents were pushing some little child in a stroller. The child was simply flailing. Its exhaustion was beyond expression. It was just simply flailing. And every so often it would whimper. And I sort of looked at that poor kid, and all I could feel from him, and I could feel it so deeply. I want it to be different. Somebody please make it different. And it was like, you and me both, honey. But there it is. But if we believe in it, we are children of God. And every one of us holds an absolutely eternal promise from the divine. I will help you. I ask myself often, why do I ever worry about anything? I give lots of short-term answers, but I don't really have a good answer. Oh my God, there's a lot to worry about. Look at the planet. I mean, we have encroaching darkness. Master, I'm going to just throw this one last thought in before I finish. Master, he was talking about, I don't even remember, it's this wonderful article called Nations Beware. And I can't remember whether he wrote it after World War I or after World War II. But he said, when violence started up again, he said, all of a sudden when violence started up again, people said, oh, violence. Because there's a lot of people who like that. So violence has started up again. And we are not unrelated. So this wave is going out. Oh, violence. Like this again. So we're in something now. How it's going to end, what's going to come of it, I don't know. But we're there again. People are catching this wave in all directions. So when I say, what do I have to worry about? Mamma mia, I have a lot to worry about. We all do. But children of light, forsake the darkness. We have to believe in the light. Now, I'm not saying we have to believe in short-term, naive expectations that nice people will win. Because that's not what this world is set up to be. This world is set up to scare the living daylights out of us. And it does. Because we have a power within us. And Master said, tests are not given to us to break us. They are given to us to awaken within us the infinite power of God, which is our true nature. And let us help one another in that divine adventure. God bless you.
Lullaby, my sweet baby, lulay, lulay. Angel voices sing peace on the wind. And though men cry with sorrows, God's silence within speaks of realms that no tears ever stained. Beauty, men say, is a dream never known. Shadow to them is a light, but their gloom is a cry of a lost innocence. Sleep sweetly with God through the night. Lullaby, my sweet baby, lulay, lulay. Mountain flowers are not frightened to bloom. And though men spread destruction, life rises again with a smile for the pull of the tomb. Mercy still sings, though men's leaders cry hate. Peace is still loved, though they fight. Bombs have never extinguished the candle of hope. Sleep sweetly with God through the night. Sleep sweetly with God through the night.
Come here while I sing you of emerald hills, of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story of the lilacs of May. My song is the story of deer on the hills, of larks that soar seeking the sun, of nightingales lifting the curtain of night, as with music they bring down heaven's blessings of light. Oh, my song is the story of God's blessings of light. Come join me in singing of that emerald isle, of flowers that like jewels besprinkle the lea, of waterfalls eager to embrace the wide sea, as we with our Maker united would be, as we with our Maker reunited would be. Come here while I sing you of emerald hills, of valleys and meadows so fair, that all who have seen them have carried away memories in their hearts, friends, like the lilacs of May. Oh, my song is the story of the lilacs of May.